כמה דקות לנוח, לאכול, לשתות, ותודה שחזרתם. אני רוצה שוב להתחיל ולהגיד תודה רבה למגזין סטייל. אני לא רואה את זה כמובן מאליו שגופים שעובדים והמטרה שלהם מסחרית לעשות כזאת דחיפה למען קהילה שתעבוד ותהיה נזונה ממה שהם עושים. זו פעולה שהיא בעיניי מאוד משמעותית לכל מי שמאיתנו יכול להזיז טיפה את העגלה הזאת בארץ. אז אני רוצה עוד פעם להגיד תודה רבה, שהם מאפשרים לדבר הזה לקרות, שהם ממנפים אותו, ממנפים את כל הדבר הזה בשביל להפוך את ישראל לעוד מעצמונת קטנה בתחום הזה של עיצוב, ארכיטקטורה, אומנות, ולהביא בעיקר לפה את הסיפורים הכי גדולים. אז תודה רבה למגזין סטייל ולרענן שדוחף את הדבר הזה כבר שנתיים. About our next speaker, it's going to be a bit tough for me to talk, but I'm going to talk both in Hebrew and English. Kar is standing here. I'm going to call you to the stage in a second, but I want to read in Hebrew a text that I wrote day after Zah died suddenly at age 65. It was a sudden death, and I think it touched almost everybody that was in the design arena, that this lady that kicked all glass ceilings, possible glass ceilings, died so young. So I want to read the text in Hebrew and then I will call you, okay? כשאני מצמצם את עיניי, הכל הופך לדיונת חול אחת גדולה. דיונה שעם הרוח שינתה את מופעה הייחודי בכל פעם והולידה יצירה חדשה. מדהים ללוות ולעקוב מזה כמה עשורים אחרי העשייה המדהימה של האישה הזאת. החל מהציורים המופשטים שהוצגו בתחילת הדרך כחלק מהזרם הדקונסטרוקטיביסטי, שסחף גם אותי אחרי המופשט החדש, והגיע לשיאו במימוש תחנת כיבוי האש במתחם חברת ויטרה. רשמתי בסוגריים, כמו אז את כבר אומרת, אל תחבו אותי. ומשם, בסחף ענקי, לראות עד כמה יוצרת אחת מצליחה להוביל צוותי ענק של יוצרים, אדריכלים, מעצבים, יצרנים, חברות וממשלות, ועד כמה יוצרת אחת בודדה יכולה להשפיע על העולם סביבה, וכמה אנרגיה יש ליצירה. ציור, אומנות ותבליטי נייר מופלאים שמבססים את השפה שלנו. מאות דוגמאות של ארכיטקטורה פנטסטית וסוחפת שמתחילה ברישום קו, ונבחנת באינסוף מודלים, ואז מותחת במציאות את גבולות החומר והגרביטציה. אין ספור חללי פנים היפר-ריאליסטיים וטוטליים שממזגים תקרה לרצפה וקירות לעולם שלם ומאוחד. סדרות מופלאות של רהיטים וגופי תאורה שמחפשים תנועה במצב סטטי. מכרסמת גושי ענק של חומר ומחלצת מפואטיקה של מסות, פריטי דיזיין מופלאים. אין ספור פריטים היא עשתה. פריטי אופנה, נעליים, שמאתגרות את הרגליים של נשות העולם ועד אוסף תכשיטים שמניע ומרכיב את משטחי החומר למפגש והתמזגות עם הגוף. מאות ואלפי יצירות שנענות לשפה הייחודית של זהה חדיד. אישה אחת, אין סוף יצירה, הדיבה של הדיונה. I want to invite Kar, and I want to thank you very much for coming here and sharing the life and the work of Zaha and her secret projects that I think more of us almost didn't see. And just to say, Kar is the head of the interior design at Zaha Hadid office. The office is huge, but they're running a fantastic team. So we're going to have the presentation and then follow up some questions and answers. Thank you very much.
So thank you to Gal and the organizers for inviting me here to this amazing conference. Despite British Airways, I was supposed to arrive 2 days ago, but you know what happened. So I'm so glad I made it here. So if you may indulge me a little, I'd like to give you a brief background of Zaha Hadid Architects. It was founded 30 years ago by Zaha Hadid, We are a 400-strong office of architects and designers operating internationally. Our main office is in London with 2 locations, and we have 4 satellite offices in Dubai, Mexico, Beijing, and Hong Kong. Our principal, Patrick Schumacher, collaborated with Zaha for nearly 30 years, and our board of directors is amongst the most experienced architects in the industry, most of, if not all of whom have worked with Zaha over the decades to deliver some of the world's most iconic projects. Currently, we have 58 projects in 28 countries under construction or in design development, with hopefully more to come. I think many of you may already be familiar with some of the practice's more iconic projects. So let's see if this works. Such as the Vitra Fire Station in Germany, the Maxi Museum in Rome, the Aquatic Center in London, and then more recently the Heydar Aliyev Center in Baku, Culture Center Baku. Much has been already written about these projects, so I won't dwell on them. Instead, what I would like to share today are 3 observations from an insider's point of view, if you will, through the lens of smaller scale projects such as interiors, installations, furniture, and product design, about what inspires us at Zaha Hadid Architects and what we can achieve by design. So my first point is this. In our design approach, we have never distinguished between large-scale and small-scale projects. In fact, a smaller-scale project is easier to render more vividly due to its immediacy compared to a large-scale architectural project, which often has a much longer lifespan and is more complex. To quote Zaha, some of the earliest projects in the office were designs for products and interiors, with furniture projects being part of our repertoire from day one. There's a strong connection between the two, and to some extent, this is to complete the experience that we as architects try to realize for the user. Secondly, Zaha believed that without research and experimentation, not much can be discovered. This came from her teaching days at the Architecture Association, and also in the early days of the studio, which initially began as an atelier. Her credo that there should be no end to experimentation underpins much of our work. We see design as non-linear and non-prescriptive. It cannot be expressed in any medium other than its own. And only through experimentation, you can actually discover that something else, be it in the unintentional line, the intuitive gesture, or hidden in the palimpsest of tracing paper. It's the quest for that revelatory moment, the inspiration or magic, if you will, that transcends functionality and problem solving and resonates with us at a more visceral level. And the third observation is the belief that architecture and design can change people's lives. At the core of architecture, at least in the way we at Zaha, the architects, practice, is a promise of optimism and a belief in the future. This is because, to quote Alain de Botton, modern architecture has never ceased trying to reflect back to its audience a selective image of who they might be, in the hope of improving upon and molding reality. That what we seek at the deepest level is inwardly to resemble, rather than physically to possess, the objects and places that touch us through their beauty. So this overarching belief sort of underpins a lot of what we do when we tackle a project. And the following examples, perhaps some more familiar than others, will hopefully make it clear. So these are the projects that are under development and the competitions that we've recently won. So I'd like to begin in 1982 from one of Zaha's earliest projects. This was an interior renovation of a state terrace apartment in London's upscale Belgravia. So this drawing for me is really, very seminal in that it captures the forces that unleash when new and old collide. These paintings and drawings not only document the unbuilt project, but they also create their own reality through a carefully constructed narrative. So she uses the tools of architectural representation, such as the axonometric, the perspective, and the plan, to produce these dreamlike images of columns flying, ceilings bending, and walls disappearing. Mundane elements, such as the coffee table or the bookshelves, assume the proportions of a plaza in a cityscape, blurring the separation between the interior and the exterior. This proposition for me is more about the metaphysical interiority of everyday life, as it is about the physical city and the world beyond. Another early project is Cascade Road, which was set within an existing house in London. And here, what we tried to do was use furniture to define the interior. So the ease and graciousness of the forms of the furniture, I hope, would posit an alternative domesticity, so that areas for lounging, entertaining, watching TV, and dining are all defined by the furniture, while the space remains open and connected. So this is a view from the street looking into the living room. And you can see all these little areas of furniture. The banquette, for example. What is interesting here is that it's sort of the unconscious understanding of how people live. So here, you can seat maybe 4 or 5 people along the bench. And then at the end, you have this little sort of love seat where 2 people can talk together. And then you have a coffee table which swivels, so that from wherever you sit, you're still within reach of a drink. So some details. And then the other seating area, the little coffee table. And I think these pictures were taken right at the beginning before the glass came in, so the glass top is missing. Oops. And then at the back, the client wanted these storage shelves. So this is shelves with sliding panels that open and close. And then see, these are some of the construction drawings for the furniture. And a little model that we created from the start. I think what is quite interesting to see is how fluidly we always work between all these different medias, from model to paintings to drawings and back again. And that's what I meant by it not being a linear progression. And I think it's also partly to do with the fact that as you use these different medias, you discover something else in the work which could inform, your design. That, I think, is the most important thing, and I think what she means by experimentation and discovery. This was the first built commercial project. 1990, sort of brings us back to a long time ago. And it was for a restaurant in Japan, which was set within a shopping mall. It was on 2 levels, with the restaurant on the bottom and a lounge at the top. So the concept for this project was fire and ice. So the restaurant was seen as this icy, very cold interior. And then the lounge was fire. And there was this tornado, or this element that whirled through the 2 spaces and connected them together. So we would typically begin our work by sketches. So this is early ideas for the ice. And then, as you can begin to see here, the idea of this swirl, that actually goes through this void space and pulls everything together. Early models, and again, you can begin to see the 2 levels and sort of bits and pieces of the furniture. And plans, sections. So this is the built project, the restaurant level, the big dining table, the communal table, and then you can begin to see this whirling element, which actually sits a bar. You can see, I think there's a little gap up there. And the bar is actually suspended so that on the top floor, when you're lounging, you're actually on eye level with the bartender, so you don't actually have to, bend down. And this is the upper floor with that tornado element. We also created special furniture to help lounge. And it's very low banquettes with these flamed-inspired cushions that are removable, so they can be adjusted to wherever your position is. And the idea was that the waiters would come along with these trays of drinks, and then you would set them in along any of the holes along the banquette. Another project that was quite seminal was the Hotel Porter America. The owner of this, in Madrid, the owner of this boutique hotel asked different designers, 18 different designers, to design a floor, a venue, and an element in the building. So we were tasked to design a floor of 30 rooms, including all the common areas with full autonomy. So within our design, we tried to create a cocoon that is calm and has as little visual noise as possible. Hence, the traditional furnishings that you find in a hotel room, like a desk, a chair, a bed, are all melded into one, into a seamless whole. These are early study models for a pair of rooms. And there were 2 special suites done in black as well. An image of the toilet, which was also done in the same principle, where even the bin was specially designed so that the whole thing was this seamless whole. Then the colors were kept quite minimal: white, the special black, and then an orange bathroom. We even designed the bedspread. And then we were asked by Neil Barrett, who is a designer who made his name in business creating minimalist menswear for his Tokyo flagship store. Unfortunately, I don't have any images of the final store, except party photos, which sort of just show people. So I put in this rendering. So it was an existing building, and we were asked to design the boutique inside. So the strategy in this case was to keep the store simple, almost minimal, with a monochromatic or almost monastic interior consisting of concrete, just unfinished concrete, and simple fittings. But what we wanted to do was insert a large sculptural element, which was inspired by the collar and cuff of the traditional men's shirt, into the interior. And these function variously as counters or as displays. So more importantly, what we were trying to do was to have the sensuous form of this feature element create a visual counterpoint to the rest of the interior, and then could try and connect back at an emotional level with the métier of the brand. This is a strategy we applied to the shop-in-shop concept. Oh, so you see the plan of with the element just inserted into this space. Yeah, and so in the shop-in-shop concept, we maintained this idea of putting a special element, which is unique each time in each location. And this allows the layout of each store to be adaptable while remaining consistent with the overall brand identity. Closer to home is the Roca Gallery in London's Imperial Wharf, which showcases the product of a leading sanitary ware manufacturer. So Roca commissions different architects around the world to design each individual gallery so that each one would be a different experience. So the retail program included not just a display of their products, but also some cultural and public components, such as exhibition and meeting rooms, a library, and research facilities, which together reflect the company's philanthropic and social initiative. So Roca being, a product line for sanitary ware, the obvious inspiration was water in its myriad forms. So the plan was conceived as a flowing river, and that carved out all these various spaces. So you can see as you enter the gallery. So they created like these spaces, such as on the left, which is for the showing the product lines, and on the right, a conference room, display for the various sanitary ware. And this idea of flow is expressed in the way we use the GLG panels to create this continuous sensuous interior. And you can also see all the tiles in the floor has been specially cut to create this waving pattern. Here is a picture of the conference room. And the library and the lighting shelves have all been inspired by bubbles. So you can imagine like this water flowing and then rising up as bubbles to form shelves, furniture, and of course lighting. And even in the presentation, in the conceptual model that we had in the beginning, you can begin to see these elements flowing through. And this is a picture of a plan. Another more recent project is a gallery design for the Gallery Mazinska in Zurich. We were asked to do this to coincide with Art Basel 210. And the idea of the exhibition juxtapose works of the Russian avant-garde with the work of our practice. So the idea was to take this drawing and make it into 3 dimensions, so that when you entered the gallery, it was as if you were entering a picture. So this is from the outside as you go in. And then these were drawings we did that extended the first image I showed you into 3-dimensional space by exaggerating the perspective. So as you enter in, you see this explosion. So on the left is the work of our practice, and on the right, all the old the suprematist paintings. And I would like to show you also examples of our residential work, 2 of them in fact. This is a private villa in Moscow called Capitol Hill. And it was for an oligarch. So what he wanted, it's sort of outside Moscow with a very, very densely wooded location, so there are beautiful trees. And his whole idea was that he wanted to be able to float above this horizon of green. So what we did was all the public facilities are all hidden in the lower podium, which is carved into the rock. And the bedroom and the special suites are up in the tower. It's a picture of it in snow, in a view of the tower. An early rendering studying this area. And you can see the unobstructed 360 glass and all the views of the horizon and the trees. So what we would typically do is do a lot of studies and renderings, such as this for the fireplace, just to test the ambience, test the shapes, test the design. And this is it under construction, or the production of the actual fireplace. Similarly for the bathtub, where you have, again, these amazing views, seeing it at various lighting conditions, and then as it is in construction. What was really nice about this project was that we were able to bespoke and design everything. Obviously because the budget allowed that. It's sort of a dream project for any architect. But I think what we wanted to do was to use these forms of the furniture to kind of define how you actually use the space, to define how you would actually feel when you're in, how you would sit, how you would take a bath. There was a wardrobe that gave some privacy to the bedroom, which was on this side. But we didn't just want something solid. So the wardrobe actually lets light through, so it's translucent on one side. And of course, a wardrobe needs mirrors. So what we did was the glass changes from translucent and it goes round and becomes mirror. And this was a mock-up of how this would work. And then some images of the interior. Hopefully will be finished quite soon. In contrast to this, we've done a project in New York, a condominium for a developer related. And I think it's slightly different here because you have to design the interiors for people who might not share your view, who have different lifestyles, who have their own decorators to come in. So again, how do you give enough of your own design, but yet also, leave enough so that people can fit into the work and they can bring into them their own life. So it's located near the High Line in West 29th Street. Again, I go back, these were early paintings that we did to study just the form and how the window bends against the balconies. Early 3D models. So basically it was actually two sites, one on the left and one on the right, that were separated. And we were lucky that the New York Planning Commission allowed us to fuse them together into one composition. Each of these blocks had their own elevator course, which was kept when we moved them together. And what we did was, in order to get a higher entry space, we pushed the apartment blocks above the lobby higher. So it resulted in a split section. And that was expressed with this zigzag facade that we have on the outside. We also work in paper, in models, an early one just to study the impact of this. And this was an early rendering of the project. And this is the project now, as we saw it I think taken about a month ago in New York. So I learned here, and these are the apartments with the balconies that overlook it. A view of one of the apartments, the kitchen unit, which we also designed. And one of these balconies. I think what was one of the generating idea of the facade was the idea of just like this continuous line. So you can actually trace the line of the zigzag going all around, turning around on the balcony, forming another form on the other side. And again, I think it comes back to a lot of our early investigations with paintings, with drawings, with sketches, and how moving fluidly between the two, you actually draw from one into the other, and you capture that moment, and you kind of make that into part of your design inspiration. This is the entrance. An early rendering for the lobby, and as it is now. On the wall on the left is this CNC carved stone wall that kind of carries this idea of the curves in, and kind of a bit reminiscent of the bubbles that we saw in Roca. A rendering of the lounge, what it is now, almost finished. And then in the apartments, as I said, because we tried to keep the palette very simple and restrained, knowing that people with different tastes, would be moving in. But what we did was we introduced certain elements just to give it that touch, so that the bits of the exterior flow into the inside. So there's this sort of what we call the special object, which is this element, the white element behind, and variously it's a bathroom or it's storage, but it's this special element finished in white lacquer with just very subtle design. And then we kept everything else very, very simple. And this is an image of the show flat done by a decorator, not by us. But I think it lives quite well in the project. The view of the interior. This is a rendering of the kitchen where we designed this special island with Buffy. And this is what it is as built. And then a view of the bedroom showing the curved windows. Oops. A rendering of the bathroom, and then the final bathroom. And then again, another shot of the paintings that we did to study the facade. We also have done many collaborations with other brands. And as Zaha says, this interest stems from the fact that these smaller projects convey the mood of the day, of the moment, like music, literature, and art, because the production process between idea and result is so much quicker than for architecture, with greater opportunities for experimentation. So we were commissioned by Chanel to design a traveling pavilion that highlighted the art collection. This was assembled, disassembled, and then shipped to Hong Kong, Tokyo, New York, and Paris. Image of the interior, and you can see some of the art, like the blown up Chanel bag. We also were invited by Louis Vuitton to reinterpret one of their iconic bags. So the bucket bag was envisioned as a sculptural object, which uses parametric manipulation to stretch and distort the stylized flowers to create a sense of movement. And it's almost as if the flowers are like jumping out from the bag. We also designed these plinths for the bags to perch on, making it part of a larger dynamic composition. We also collaborated with Bulgari, inspired by the Serpenti bracelet, to produce this exhibition installation that was originally designed for Abu Dhabi Art Fair and then displayed in Rome. And also, we collaborated just recently to redesign the classic B01 ring that was, and we designed also the show windows that was just launched in Milan this year. I think the nice thing too about a lot of these collaborations is that we take the long view of it, especially, for example, in the New Barrett example that I had shown, because it takes a while and it takes a long term for us to actually work, get to the essence of the brand, for the brand to trust us, and then to move forward in this partnership. And I think that's the kind of collaborations that we really enjoy doing. Here was a bag that we designed for Fendi, and it was inspired by the pages of a book. Shoes for United Nude. And as difficult as it looks, apparently it's really comfortable to wear. I mean, I haven't tried it myself, but friends who have tried it is actually okay. It's actually made of rubberized, metallized rubber, and it's lined in leather inside. But the exciting thing was, like, dealing on such a small project, it was almost sometimes as complex as a larger one. We had to deal with the cantilever of the heel and the base that supports it. And what we learned was that you couldn't really push the base any further in because the center of gravity would be off and you would topple over. So it's like working with these various fabricators and these various craftspeople to kind of hone that, you know, to discover these things that we then applied our design or applied to. A perfume bottle for Donna Karan, and some jewelry for Caspita. It was interesting here too because it was the first time that we 3D printed jewelry with precious metal. In this case, the first one was in titanium. And then more recently, a jewelry collection for George Jensen. This was the pavilion that we designed at the launch in Baselworld. And, you know, talking about like moving from large scale to small scales, this was actually inspired by a project of ours in Beijing, in Wangjing. We also worked with Porcelanosa in designing a range of bathroom sanitary ware. And it was originally designed for our hotel project, the Opus project in Dubai. The Zephyr sofa with Casino. And again, looking at this and, you know, harkening back to the Cascade Road example I showed a while ago, I think shows this continuous evolution or interest in domesticity, in furniture. Two tables. The top one, the Glacier, is my favorite because the idea was to capture frozen water. So the whole tabletop is CNC'd from this huge piece of Perspex block. And it's got these ripples that are actually carved into the underside of it. And where the legs join the top, you can see here, it becomes this like a what do you call it? A whirlpool, where it just goes around and it pulls the legs in. And what's really quite beautiful is when the light shines through, you actually see the ripples of the water projected on the ground. Wallpaper for Marburg. And then just recently, a collaboration with Wiener Silber in Austria for these silver vases. So these vases are like cast in actual silver, and then there's a craftsman who would just sketch the lines, and then he would like painstakingly carve out every single line. And the inspiration was quite obvious from the lava of a volcano. A cheese grater that we just launched for Alessi. And we have a line of homewares and accessories. I would also like to show you images of the Zaha Hadid Gallery in London. And this is a gallery where it not only showcases our architecture and design work, but hosts pop-ups for young designers and architects that Zaha supported. So it is spread over 2 levels and connected by a suspended staircase, and it's open to the public. So if you're ever in London, I invite you to come. So the exterior. So this staircase is poured concrete, precast concrete that is suspended from the 2 ends, and the whole thing just hangs. Some example of our work displayed, and you can see a bit of another range of wallpaper we have, and some of our newest furniture design. I hope as this quick tour of our design makes clear, our goal is to create well-crafted objects that marry grace with functionality, and are all infused with the seductive streak that bears Zaha's unmistakable DNA. I would like to end by returning to one of Zaha's seminal peak paintings that blur the boundary between the interior and the exterior. Here, I add a quote by her that applies not to just all aspects of design, but in fact is also an axiom which guides much of our work and professional aspiration. It is important to build projects that give uplifting experiences that inspire, excite, and enthuse. As you know, Zaha passed away unexpectedly in May 2016, but she remains with us in the vast body of work and the DNA of her firm, Zaha Hadid Architects, which is now 400-person strong. Her working methods and principles continue to drive and inspire us every day, and we work on as she taught us, with curiosity, integrity, passion, and determination. And this is our office today.
So just, it was a beautiful view of this amazing work. And I thought that we should take a couple of minutes.
Yep.
And I want to go back with you because we were, in the first session, we had Paula Nagona with this idea of breaking the boundaries and talking about her not being a teacher and running away from that. But I want to go back with you to the moments that you were a student and Zaha was the professor coming in. And how was your first meeting her as a professor?
Well, I think, to be frank, I mean, Zaha was an awful professor, but an amazing teacher. And I think that was because I think she realized that architecture is something that's not didactic, that cannot be taught as a prescription. You know, I mean, some people do that and they say, okay, you do this, and then you draw this line, and this is how you make a building. But I think for her, architecture was about intuition. And as you can see, even from her early experiments with paintings and the drawings, and I don't know if you've been to any of her lectures, but her lectures don't really expound any principle. It was more about the images that she did. And the whole reason was that, as I touched on earlier, she believed that architecture can only, or at least I think she believed it, can only be conveyed in of itself. So that's why I think in the early paintings, she tried to use all these perspectives to convey that moment. So when you look at it, you go, oh my God, there's something special. I don't know what it is, but I look at it and I'm like drawn to it. Or if you enter a building, I mean, it doesn't have to be one of her buildings, you know, any special buildings that you can think of. When you walk in, you know, there's this, immediately you feel this sense of maybe exhilaration or dread, or, you know, in a synagogue, for example, you talk very quietly. Why? I mean, why does it make you do that? And I think it's because of this special moment and special space that it catches. So with us in school, I mean, imagine like, I was like 21, it's going back a long time, as a student. You know, you go in and she throws you this problem. I remembered we were given a map of London with these lines just drawn through. And that was the project.
It was her lines?
Huh?
It was her lines?
Yeah, just quite randomly over it. And you were asked to design a project. And you're like, excuse me, I want to design a house, I want to design an apartment, like, you know, what am I supposed to do with this? And I think at the point it was completely frustrating. That's why I say she was a terrible teacher, because she didn't tell you anything more. But in looking back, she was an amazing mentor, amazing professor, because what that made you do, what it forced you to do was think. And the whole point, I think, in architectural education was to teach you how to think, and not teach you, not give you a recipe for design. And I think it was also part of how the Architecture Association operated. So that many of the people who graduated from that school, as you might know, might not end up doing architecture. In fact, we were the most unemployable people. I mean, when we came out of school, we couldn't draw a line, we couldn't do details, you know, we didn't know all these waterproofing things, you know. I mean, we were terrible. But what we had was this attitude about design. So many of us came out, not only as architects, but designers, fashion designers, pop singers. Pet Shop Boys, I think, went to school there. You know, set designers, all these things. And it was because of that ethos about, I think with design especially, you have to form your own sense of what design is. You have to make the connection in your mind and what you're drawing that makes meaning for yourself. So if you copy somebody else, if you copy that, at the end, it doesn't mean anything to you. It doesn't resonate at a deeper level. Yeah. And that's what that's what I learned from her.
It's fantastic. I mean, this is the way that we all are experiencing life. I mean, yeah. Somebody is tackling us with a question, and that's maybe the biggest lesson of how to solve questions. But then I want to take you a bit further, and you finish academy, and then you're in the first day in the office.
Right.
She's inviting you in, or how is it happening? What is happening there?
It was a very natural progression because I was a student of hers. And I mean, the thing about Zaha was that there was no boundaries between her being a teacher, her being a friend, her being a mentor. So, for example, you know, we would help her with her work, and you know, when we had, you know, deadlines, even though she really didn't tell us what to do, she would sit there like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m. with us as we were doing the drawings, and she would go, and you had to try and decide what it meant. But at that point, too, as I said, it was so frustrating because it was like, please give me the answer, tell me what to draw, because I have no idea. So you really had to push yourself, you know, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't make it in the class because it took longer, but she was always there for us. So we would be helping her with her paintings, we would go over to her house and be there. And
how big was the office bar right
it was just about 8 or 9 people.
8 or 9 people,
yeah.
So it was a small atelier.
Yeah. And the thing was, it was very like a family. So we would go there, you know, do the paintings, have dinner, watch TV, chit chat. You know, it was a wonderful like, atmosphere.
So it was really like a small family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I'm going to take you much further away. So you were leaving the office after 2 years or something, and then went back. And after 20 years,
About 20 years
later, she's calling you back.
Yeah.
And just if you can bring us back 20 years after, you did this whole home run.
Yeah, it's funny how things go back. So I think the other thing that I thought made her, in looking back now, that made her such a good mentor was that obviously, you know, I enjoyed working with her and did very well, but I wanted to, you know, explore other areas. I wanted to live in New York. I wanted to try other things. And she never sort of stopped us from doing it. She understood, even though she wasn't happy. It's like, you know,
You're leaving me.
yeah, you're leaving me. I can't do that. But I think, and
She
that's
has a very special accent.
yeah. The
Which
special
was
voice.
frustrated.
Yeah. Stop it. And the great thing was that she understood what it takes to form your whole journey as an architect. That you have to go through these experiences. I think sometimes you have to leave home to come back. And how you have to form those things yourself and make your own journey. So after about, 20 years, working in New York and in Paris, I said to her, I'm looking for a new challenge, looking for something else. And she said, well, why don't you just come back? We'll create this department. I was like, okay, why not? And going back was almost as if not leaving home, because the fundamentals were there. Okay, when I was first there, it was about 10 people. When I went, that was 400. So in that sense, the scale had changed a lot. But I think fundamentally, it still operated as an atelier. Like from the day she taught. So there were a lot of students. I mean, subsequent to the age she taught at Yale, at Harvard, at the school in Vienna. And a lot of her ex-students came and worked for her. So it had that very collegiate, very sort of almost family-like atmosphere, even though, times 400. I mean, yeah, she couldn't, meet everybody. But, there were a few of us, and there were these groups who worked directly with her. Yeah, so I think what I wanted to stress here, and I hope, in today's presentation you can see, was always this restlessness to look for something else, to push yourself. So, for example, a lot of our work, sort of evolves and changes. And, the later projects are different from the earlier ones. And, one different from the next. And that's because consciously, we don't want to repeat ourselves and cut and paste and do what we have. Even though, I'm sorry, sometimes you, as an automatic gesture, you do, right? But she was always there to challenge us and say, look, we've done this before, I'm not interested in this anymore. Show me something new, show me something else.
So I hope that, in a way, this is the beginning of the Hadid office and Israel collaboration. So this is the beginning, and we will try to do something bigger next time that you are here.
Great.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.